You're watching 702 On Demand. Hello and thanks for tuning in to 702 Inc., where we're taking you to the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development. We're going to be speaking to Kristopher Sanchez, which is the Director of International Trade, and more specifically, the International Trade Summit that's coming to Las Vegas in November 2013. Welcome to 702 Inc. Today, we're bringing you to the Governor's Office of Economic Development right here in downtown Las Vegas. We're sitting with Kristopher, who's going to tell us a little bit about not only how he's come to the Valley, but his new role and position, as well as their involvement in the International Trade Summit that's coming up this fall. Kristopher.
You know, Joshua, I came to Las Vegas actually after meeting my wife on a cruise to Catalina and Ensenada, and came from California back in 2004 and saw a lot of opportunity here and a lot of potential as I was getting through school, and decided to make Nevada my home. And my wife actually is a third-generation Las Vegan, so she's got a deep roots here. And subsequently have been back in D.C. and back here to Nevada more recently, and very much enjoy being in the state and in Las Vegas.
Now, the Governor's Office, how did you land this role?
You know, I spent about 5 years as a employee of the House of Representatives. I worked for several different members of Congress through internships as well as staff positions. I was a Panetta Fellow through the Leon and Sylvia Panetta Institute in Monterey, California. And so my background was that of the federal government. I actually was hired in the Governor's Office as an agency liaison and policy advisor. And over the course of the last 16 months or so, just had the opportunity to transition from that role into the Director of International Trade for the state.
Now, you transition into a role, and then your mandate's gone through quite a bit of changes in the past few months, hasn't it? Yeah. So can you tell us about that?
That's exactly right. You know, as the state has restructured economic development and stood up the agency of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, which itself is new, it was actually started officially in July of last year. There was a transition period from a Commission on Economic Development to the Governor's Office of Economic Development that occurred in the earlier part of 2012. And as part of the new mandate for economic development and new focus, one of the areas that the governor was intently focused on was our international engagement as a state. And traditionally at the governor's level, the state has not engaged in a very strategic or systematic or procedural way. And through the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the governor's efforts internationally and desire to put the state on the map around the world in a different way, we've stood up the International Division. And so that division officially started in July. And although we've had the title of Director of International Trade in the Commission, the role has changed significantly as the approach to economic development for the state has changed.
We're certainly known around the world as the entertainment capital of the world, the fight capital of the world, but international trade, why is Las Vegas, why Southern Nevada, why is that the place for an international commerce?
You know, you mentioned some of the great attributes of Las Vegas, and actually they go hand in hand. Most people, I think, when they look at Las Vegas, they just think of the bright lights and the experience of the gaming. But with that sector, which is our number one sector, which is gaming and hospitality, is actually essential to building our trade. And what I mean by that is that one of the things that we talk about internationally is the 150,000 hotel rooms, the 40 million plus passengers flying into McCarran, 6 million of which are passport holders, the 10.1 million square feet of meeting, convention, and exhibition space, and the 22,000 conferences and meetings and exhibitions that occur here every year. So that, coupled with the fact that Clark County, Las Vegas, is in a foreign trade zone, and just if I may digress a little bit, the Foreign Trade Zone program was started by the U.S. Congress in 1934. And foreign trade zones exist all over the U.S. and in fact all over the world. But what makes our foreign trade zone unique is that we have Las Vegas and all those assets and kind of the statistics behind what some of those assets drive that I mentioned. And so for companies that are looking to reach distributors, reach buyers, really the connectivity that we have throughout the world in Las Vegas is unmatched. And so it's the asset that we have in our number one sector that's going to help us build our export base and attract new investment and new companies from around the world here in the southern region. You know, one of the things that we seek to do in this effort of enhancing foreign direct investment is to have companies come out and see Las Vegas. And what we find is many of them have already been here. They've been to CES, they've been to SEMA, they've been to these conferences that are known around the world as the predominant conferences in their fields or sectors. And so we like to build upon that and show them all the other assets that the state has that can help them grow their business, regardless of where it is. And we have a lot of connectivity to South America, Central America, and obviously the rest of the United States. And so we feel that there's a tremendous advantage to being here. And that's a part that we're very much focused on, is recruiting companies to the state and to this region.
Great. So a lot of great logistics and, a great brand, a lot of connections. So talking about connections, when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about the International Trade Summit at the Trump Towers that's happening in November this year. Welcome back to 702 Inc. here at the Governor's Office, where we're talking a little bit about our global Las Vegas brand as well as connecting. So, in that theme, the International Trade Summit is here, November 2013. Kristopher, how is Las Vegas going to take Nevada global?
Great question. Thank you, Joshua. You know, there's several ways to answer that question. I think I'd like to start at the macro for a second and talk a little bit about Nevada in general. You know, the state's ranked consistently in the top 10 amongst the states in the U.S. for entrepreneurialism, for business-friendly environment. We have very low tax climate, which is very appealing to businesses. In addition to that, we have a very strong export base. And we have about 2,700 companies in the state that are exporters. Of those, 2,300 are classified as small to medium enterprises. And these are companies that are defined as having 500 employees or less. They actually make up about 19% of our export base, which is about $10.2 billion a year. And so from an export base, from a business-friendly environment, we have a lot of momentum going. And in addition to that, we also have a lot of momentum in our new economic development effort and our new efforts in terms of our international engagement. And so those things all aligning present a pretty good environment for this sort of conference to occur in the state. And you know, one of the great things about the conferences is that they help people draw partnerships and connections between what we're doing in the state and how it relates internationally and globally. And those partnerships are very important because they can open up markets for our businesses as well as the businesses in this instance for this summit in Korea. And to give you an example, we might have some innovative technologies here that are being developed in Nevada. And those companies are looking for new markets. And they can partner with a Korean firm and then gain access possibly to those distribution networks that Korean firm has. And then that Korean firm can take advantage of the distribution networks that the Nevada firm has. And so these partnerships are important to growing our exports even further and strengthening the economy. You know, Nevada's exporters are the backbone of the economy. They typically perform better in the markets in which they participate. They weather downturns in the economy better than non-exporting companies. And so by strengthening our export base, we in turn strengthen our economy. And one of the things that we're focused on at economic development is building sectors and clusters. And we're very much seeking to attract innovative companies from around the world into Nevada in the sectors that we're focused on and the clusters that we're focused on, such as unmanned autonomous systems or water and sustainability and agriculture. And so it's very timely for us to have this sort of conference in Las Vegas with our new paradigm shift in economic development and how we engage internationally.
When you look through the community, and when the governor's office says, you know what would we like to see? How can I, in the community, contribute to our mission to go global?
You know, one of the things that we struggle with in terms of maybe a growing pain, if you will, is that we don't have, I'll take exports, for example, a definitive database of the exporters that are in the state. And there's so many great companies here in Nevada that are very innovative, that are, frankly, some of the best in their fields, but we don't know about them. And we'd love to know more about who's here in the state, what they produce, what they're contributing to their sectors, and how we can help them get their products out around the world, how we can leverage their expertise and their knowledge to build our sectors and our clusters, and ultimately attract similar types of companies here to Nevada. So that, I think, is one way. The other way is that we have a tremendous amount of expertise in the community in terms of individuals that have engaged internationally for many years and have worked in very unique fields for the Department of Defense, maybe the State Department, maybe the Ex-Im Bank, and pretty much can pick the federal agency. They're here. We need to leverage that expertise, that human capital that exists in our communities. If we're going to be successful, it is a community effort. It's going to take the regions in the state as well as the community organizations and the state to all come together and drive our diversification effort. And we're finding that that is the case. And one of the things that it's great to see when I'm out in the community is that many organizations that have been around for quite some time are now formulating and developing international committees within their organizations. It's something that I think some people took for granted as there were so many people coming in here from all over the world to take advantage of the gaming and hospitality assets that we have here and have a great time. But now that's being viewed under the lens of an opportunity to build our state's economy. And so as I go out and I talk to many people in the community, I'm excited to hear that they're taking those steps and that initiative. And we want people to let us know what they're doing, to go to our website, diversifynevada.com, and get on Facebook and Twitter and just let us know what their efforts are, what their expertise is in, how we can help them if they own a business, how we can help them grow. We want to put people back to work, and that's something that we think about and are focused on daily. And so if we can learn about these assets and help our companies grow, that'll only help us accomplish that objective.
You know what? Bundle that all into one very simple quote. Facts tell, stories sell. And that's what the governor's office is looking for. You guys are looking for some great stories, so go to diversifynevada.com. Tell us your story. That's how you can help take the 702 global. Thanks for tuning in to 702 Inc. Thanks for tuning in to 702. Please subscribe to our channel to follow the latest news and trends in Southern Nevada.